Good morning, children. In today's class, we are going to start with the third life process, that is transportation. I have already explained this definition in the regular class. What do you understand by transportation in biology? It means movement of substances from one part of body to another part of body. Okay, like oxygen has to be transported from lungs to different cells present in our body. The food that is digested and absorbed in the small intestine, that has to be transported to each and every cell. So for that we require a proper transportation system. And in human beings, there are three components, means three parts of transportation system. We have a very efficient transportation system, which is also known as circulatory system. What are these three parts or components? The first one is heart, second is blood vessel, and third is blood. You know the main function of heart, it is a pumping machine. It keeps the blood, it pumps the blood and keeps it circulating in the blood vessels. What are blood vessels? These are tube-like structures. So we have a huge network of interconnected tube-like structures which transport this fluid inside them. And that is why the tube-like structure is known as blood vessels. Okay. What is blood? You have learned this in 9th standard. Blood is a fluid connective tissue. It is red in color as it contains the pigment hemoglobin. Okay, we'll learn about these two later. First, we'll start with the first component of the transportation system, that is heart. Right? You have studied about human heart before. You know that the size of the heart is roughly this much. It is located in the chest cavity, slightly to the left side. And mammals, including we human beings, we come under the group mammals. Mammals and aves, means birds. These two groups of animal kingdom have four-chambered heart. Means our heart has got four chambers. Okay, let us see this. This is the simple internal diagram of the heart. Our heart is divided into two sides, the right side and the left side, by a muscular partition known as septum. Okay, and further each side is divided into upper chambers and the lower chambers. The upper chambers are known as atrium or plural atria. Singular atrium, plural atria. So the upper chambers are known as atria and the lower chambers are known as ventricles. So right side we call it as right atrium and left side we call it as left atrium. Right atrium, left atrium. Down you see, this is right ventricle, this is left ventricle. Okay, so four chambers, right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle. You have to think like this. This is my left side. So this is left side of the heart. This is right side of the heart. Okay, that is important to remember. Now, each chamber is linked with one particular blood vessel. You see, in the upper chamber, the blood vessels come from different parts of the body and pour the blood. And in lower chamber, from the lower chamber, the blood vessels arise. So in total, you have to remember names of four blood vessels. See here, these two blood vessels, they are coming from different part of the body and pouring the blood into this right atrium. The name of these two blood vessels, they are known as vena cava. This is superior vena cava, inferior vena cava. But together we can just call it as vena cava. Okay, this blood vessel, because it comes from the lung, it is known as pulmonary vein. And it opens into which chamber? Left atrium. And this side you see, from this chamber, one blood vessel is arising. It carries the blood to the lung. That's why you call it as pulmonary artery. I'll explain about the circulation later, but now you focus on the names of these blood vessels. Another blood vessel arises from this left ventricle, that is known as aorta. Okay, so four set of blood vessels. The two which bring the blood into the top chambers and the two which arises from the lower chambers. This side, these two blood vessels are known as vena cava. The one which arises from the right side, this of the right ventricle, this one is known as pulmonary artery, And this side, left side, the blood vessels which bring the blood, they are known as pulmonary vein, and the one which arises from this left ventricle, that is known as aorta. So vena cava, pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein, aorta. Now we will see how the blood circulates through the heart. The right side is concerned with deoxygenated blood. The right side receives deoxygenated blood. The left side receives oxygen rich blood, means oxygenated blood. Okay. So let's start from here. From all the parts of our body, the vena cavas bring deoxygenated blood. They pour the blood into this right atrium. From the right atrium, the blood is pumped into right ventricle. Then the right ventricles contract and it pumps the blood into this pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery takes the blood to the lungs. In the lungs, it is oxygenated. Carbon dioxide is removed, oxygen is added, and that oxygen rich blood is brought back to the heart by this vein, pulmonary vein. Okay, so the oxygenated rich blood enters into left atrium. Left atrium contracts and pumps this blood into the left ventricle. Then left ventricle contract and pumps the blood into this blood vessel, that is aorta. Okay. Now I am saying that it moves from this chamber like this, but it doesn't happen one after other. Actually, how the system is, both the top chambers receive the blood simultaneously. From this side, the vena cavas pour deoxygenated blood, and from this side, the pulmonary vein pours oxygen rich blood. So simultaneously, these two top chambers get filled with the blood. Then they contract and push the blood into the lower chamber, right ventricles. So now this right ventricle is filled with the blood. Next, this contracts, together they will contract and pump the blood into these two vessels. This one will carry the blood to all the parts of the body. This one will carry the blood to the lungs. So there is simultaneous contraction of this one, then later on these two ventricles. Okay, and when they are contracting, to make sure that the blood doesn't flow back, we have two sets of valves inside the heart. Here you can see this is known as atrioventricular valve. This is not given in your textbook, but you should know that between this top and the lower chamber, one set of valve is there, and here at the beginning of these two big blood vessels also valve is there. What is valve? Valve is like one-way door. Okay, it does not allow anything. It allows only one-way transportation. If something tries to come back, it will close like this. So in only one direction the blood can flow. If it tries to come back, it will close like this. So that prevents backflow of the blood. Okay, and one more thing that you should notice is this ventricle is thick walled, but the atriums comparatively are thin walled. So that also they ask why? Because the ventricles have to pump the blood with much force so that it can go to other parts of the body. So they pump the blood so that it has to travel to greater distance. But on the other hand, atriums pump the blood only to the lower chamber. So they are not strongly built comparatively. But ventricles have thick wall. And another thing is the presence of septum. What is the use of this? It keeps the deoxygenated blood totally separate from oxygenated blood. This provides us with more efficient supply of oxygen to our cells. And we mammals and birds require more oxygen supply because we are warm blooded. So to keep our body temperature constant, we require more energy. And that we can get it only if we are receiving a good supply of oxygen rich blood. So septum provides that advantage. Okay. And one more question they ask is, what is double circulation? Actually, if you notice when I explained that circulation, the blood is entering heart first from this side, then it goes outside the heart to the lungs, and again it returns back from this side, and after that it goes through the aorta to all the parts of the body. So the blood is entering into the lungs, sorry, into the heart twice in one single circulation of the body. Hence, the circulation, this kind of circulation is known as double circulation. Something, our heart produces sound which the doctors, they put the stethoscope on our chest and they hear the sound that tells us whether the heart is working properly or not. That sound is said to be similar to lub dub, lub dub. Why that sound comes? That actually is a sound produced due to closing of this valve. The first sound, lub, is because of closing of this valve present between the atrium and ventricle. The second sound, dub, is because of the closure of these valves which are present in this blood vessel. And one more thing, the blood vessels which carry the blood away from the heart, those kind of blood vessels are known as arteries. I'll explain later in detail about the type of blood vessels, but you should know that the blood vessel which carries the blood away from the heart, that blood vessel is known as artery. And those blood vessels which bring the blood to the heart or towards the heart, they are known as veins. And in our body, the largest artery is aorta. So if they ask, name the largest artery in the human body, your answer should be aorta. One more thing, this name you see, pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein. Why this particular name? Why not something else? But in our body, the blood vessels which are linked to particular organ, they are given that particular name. Say for example, blood vessels which supply to liver, those vessels will be known as hepatic artery, hepatic vein. Blood vessels which supply blood to kidney, they will be known as renal artery, renal vein. So that word, that word hepatic relates to liver. We say hepatic diseases, means liver diseases. Renal infection means kidney infection. So similarly, here the word pulmonary refers to lungs, because these vessels, this one, the pulmonary artery, and the one that is coming from the lung, pulmonary vein, they are associated with the lungs, hence they are given the name of pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein. Okay.